Okay guys, Jason here for another statue review. Today, in light of the fact that XM just announced, they just actually showcased their new Swamp Thing statue. I know Gem Mint just did a sort of early review of, I believe it was the prototype. I thought it was probably time for me to finally unbox my XM Swamp Thing and take a look. I got him in, man, like 9 months ago or something, and I still haven't taken him out of the box and reviewed him. So I thought now is as good a time as any. So my initial thoughts on this guy are he's obviously extremely impressive. He's huge, like all of these 1/3 scale DC pieces are. But there's something really special about him as well. I can't decide whether or not it's because I like the character. I sort of feel for this character who was once human and a kind-hearted person, but is slowly losing his connection to humanity because he's tied into I believe what they call the green in the comics, which is just sort of nature and Earth. I think there's something really sad but also beautiful about that story. So I love the character, and I'm having a hard time separating my feelings for the character from just the statue itself. But I think even regardless, I do think this is a really beautiful, fantastic, massive statue. So let's take a look. So here is, man, he's so huge that it's hard to get him in screen without moving all the way back here. But here he is, Prime 1 Swamp Thing. Now, the first thing to note is that he comes in two massive boxes. I believe this one's huge, as you can see. I think collectively these two boxes are the biggest boxes I have for any statue, period. They're enormous. I'm not going to harp on this, but I like to shit on Prime 1 because I just have high expectations for them, and they're still using this like shitty tape. It's just so ghetto. Like there's parts of this, like look at this. There's like bits of string in the tape. It just, for such a big company that makes such beautiful statues, I just think that the way they package their shit is garbaggio. But anyways, whatever. I'm not gonna harp on it. Art box, massive. Like I don't know if I can show how big this is. Okay, here's a trusty poker chip. Like, look at the size of this thing, man. Huge. Anyways, oh fuck, smashed my arm there. Anyways, let's get back to what we're here to see, the statue. So there are a number of swap outs for this guy. I got the EX version, which came with this portrait, and I believe this was the EX arm. Honestly, in my opinion, the two weakest out of any of the swap outs, but I'm glad I have the EX regardless. Here's his other portrait. This is a very classic Swamp Thing portrait with the sort of darker root-like structures coming along the edges of his mouth. I mean, the portraits are all great. I don't know what this is. It looks like some sort of tumor, and I don't know what the reference to that specific portrait is. But this one's really good. And then my favorite is the one that I have on where he's almost looks like he's got a bit of a beard, a little bit of like a older Swamp Thing. That looks awesome. Really, really nice. You know, like I said, I like to shit on Prime 1 for their presentation when it comes to how like their boxing and that, but I have to say that in my top 10 statues, 8 of them have got to be Prime 1 pieces. They do these 1/3 scale DC lines so well, so detailed, and they have such a presence because they're so huge and highly detailed that it's really hard to beat the feeling you get when you look at these things. They're not for everyone because they take up a ton of space, which is an issue that I'm having trouble with now. One of the reasons why I haven't even unboxed this guy till now is just I didn't have the space to put him anywhere. But if you have the space, there's nothing really compares. So let's look at what the other swap outs are. He's got this sword, this like wooden sword that he's made. which I think is really cool as well. This is just an arm that you can put, whoops, either a closed fist in, or you can put an open hand as well. I'm not sure where it is. Anyways, and then fist for the other arm, closed. That's interesting. These look very similar. I think they're just for two different, like probably for the bent arm versus the straight arm. Looked at the portraits. Maybe this is the exclusive. I can't remember. In this one, he kind of holds it up like this, like he's kind of doing this sort of I don't know, victory-ish type pose. But another one of the ones that I'll just never use. This one, he kind of has like holding it this way. I mean, I can show you later, but I think you get the idea. So there are the swap outs. Now let's look at the actual statue itself, and as you can see, just really, really impressive. I wish I had another statue out here to put beside him, just to give an idea, but the average premium format probably comes up to about there. I don't know if you can see that properly or not, but that's about the size of an average premium format, and he just towers. He's about the same size. I think he's even a little bit bigger than my Hush Superman by Prime 1, but he's grounded on the floor, no pun intended. He's really kind of not too high up off the ground, so I think Superman would probably sit higher than he does. But let's look at the detail. Really, really nice sculpt. I especially like this portrait, like I said. These pieces, no, I guess that is probably polystone as well. There are parts of him, like this. Yeah, this feels like hollow plastic. It's kind of, I don't know how they did it, but like this whole shoulder piece, you can hear it. That's polystone probably, or whatever it is, resin. I think it's polystone, and this is hollow. I believe that there's pieces of it that are plastic, the parts that are around the magnet. But regardless, beautiful. In the pictures that I was looking at online before I bought them, I was a little bit worried that there'd be too much uniformity in the color, too much green. But seeing it in person, and I'm not sure if it's picking up on camera, but there are a lot of variations in the different greens and browns in him. Now, I will comment that is one thing that I think, at least in watching the review on Gem Mint's, a bit of a gap there. No, actually, it's just me not putting it in properly. When I watched Gem Mint's overview of the XM Swamp Thing, while I think that it can't compare to this just in terms of impact because of the size of this thing, and I like all the options of his poses. One thing that I think that the XM statue might have done a little bit better is the variation in colors on him to really make different pieces of his anatomy stand out. Because when you have too much uniformity, it's hard to appreciate certain parts. You know, a perfect example is the Transformers movies that Michael Bay did. You know, kind of cool. I mean, arguable, but some of the character designs are cool. But if you see them in action, it's just like, what the hell is going on here? There's shit all over the place. I can't make limb from limb, you know. And this is borderline a problem. Could be a problem with this statue if it's not lit properly, because these colors kind of blend in with the mosses in the background, and then also with the grounds. There's a lot of greens and browns. And honestly, I'm looking at it here, and I think that I don't have that problem when I look at it. I think that it's different enough that you can make out, you know, there's big chunks of brown here on the thighs to really separate it from the body. There's big chunks of brown in the arms, but certainly I think that XM, from what I saw, did that even a little bit better. So that's one criticism of this. It's not a criticism of this, it's just, like I said, something that I think they did better. Another problem that I have with this is the same issue I had with another Prime 1 piece that I recently got in Anzu. These magnets for such a big arm, and now, like I said, I think parts of this arm are hollow, so it's not as heavy as you'd think it is, but still, they're not that strong for something holding in something so big. Now, I don't think that'll fall, but like, I hope it doesn't. Like, I'm worried about it, and that shouldn't be for a statue this expensive. But anyway, I'm nitpicking a little bit, but I think it's fair to nitpick when you spend this much on such a huge, expensive statue. Getting into the legs, the wood detailing, the grass detailing. That is something I should mention. In the vein of the separation of pieces, I noticed it along major joints. He always has these sort of bright flashes of bigger leaves, and I think that really helps to break up the statue. So like I said, I mean, they've done a good job, but I just do think that XM kind of maybe did that a little bit better. But we'll wait to see the final statue of XM's before I compare. Nice detailing in the legs. Nice big chunks of barky style material here on his calves to really make them pop. The toes are pretty cool. I hadn't noticed that. Look at that, like, busted up toenail. Those are really well done. The water, I think this is just painted on. It's not a translucent resin, but it looks really nice. The plants along the ground. These leaves don't look awesome, but I mean, in the context of the whole thing, they look great. Some of these flowers are actually, you just kind of sit them on there wherever you want, whereas this one's part of the sculpt. Just interesting, something worth noting. This, as you can see, comes over top of his foot, but you put it in after you've stuck him in, just to sort of ground him into here and embed it. Now this is kind of cool. The sub base is very interesting for a Prime 1 base, because I think that there's a ton of sculpt work in this ground base, or in this sub base. Roots coming up into here. Let's look at his other toes. That's pretty cool as well, although I think that the other one was even more effective. Again, big chunky calves, which is cool. Moving up into highly detailed thighs and big chunks of bark again in his thighs and into his hips. And then his abs are like folded over leaves, which I think is very cool. And same with his chest. You know, the more I look at the individual pieces of this guy, the more impressed I am. I love this hand pose. That sort of exaggerated pose. You can have that with a closed fist, but I see this whole setup, this face, this portrait, this hand with him holding the little bird, which I think is adorable, in a very gentle pose on that hand, considering it's just such a massive behemoth of a being. That with this sort of open hand as opposed to the closed fist, I think embodies Swamp Thing the best. That's why I think when I do end up putting him up and displaying him, this is what I'm going to go with, because this, you know, he looks beast-like. He looks like he could rip shit up. He looks mean, yet he has a gentleness to him, and that is shown in his mannerisms here, and the fact that he's holding this little bird in his hand. It shows his connection to nature, but it also just shows that there's a gentleness deep down inside of him, and I love that. Sorry that it's not as easy to see. Actually, it's fine. Look at the look at the width of his back, his lats. Wow, that's awesome. This is a nice little detail. The asymmetric piece of branch and leaves coming off his one shoulder there. He looks really nice from the back. Very cool. And then I really do love this. I like this tree base that you can kind of see even from the front, but it's obviously more evident from the back here with the little geckos. You know, again, showing his oneness with nature. But I love all these vines and moss. I think that's something that's a really nice addition to this statue specifically, that I don't think the XM1 has, that I saw, that just really, it gives you that swamp vibe, and it creates a nice sort of framework for him from the front. You know, you've got him, but then, like I said, you've got this just sort of with just a simple background here, it really gives context to him and where he is in this swamp-like environment. I think that's great. Again, the only concern is that there are some similar colors, so he could get lost in it, but there's enough lighter, almost tan colors to the back and the vines, whereas he is definitely a deeper greens and browns, that I don't think it's too much of an issue. Yeah. Let me just take a step back and not look through the camera. Whew, yeah, he's really impressive in person. Really, really hard to explain how impactful he is until you just come up next to him and see him in person. Let me just flip the camera back around here and show you me next to him. So I'm still a little bit in front of the camera. Let me see if I can actually just put myself right beside him. Look at how big it is. Yeah, he's great. I cannot wait to get him beside Deadman and Zatanna, and God, fingers crossed, please someday a Constantine from Prime 1. So that's it, guys. Thank you for coming on this little review journey with me again. As always, please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel. And be sure to like and subscribe at Rad Titan as well if you haven't been there yet. I'm a moderator on their Facebook page and a big supporter of their what they have going on. So thanks again. Until next time, later.